There's no better single example of the war on masculinity than the American Psychological Association's 2019 guidelines, where they describe traditional masculinity as a mental disorder. Their approach is to define masculinity as a social construct. A social construct is a doctored up way of saying it's not natural, but simply what culture makes it to be. The social construct comes from the idea that people are born as blank slates. Basically, there's no human nature, only what culture imprints upon us. Masculinity is not subjective, it is objective, with universally recognized traits cross-culturally throughout all of human history. Physical strength, stoic command of emotions, courageous and competent. It is not vulnerable, emotionally open, or passive.
That would be bad enough, but if you think it can't get worse, then listen to this.
Well, this is fun. Is Labour just using George Orwell's 1984 as an instruction manual at this point for how to run the UK? You might look at this and think, wow, that's great. Misogyny is bad. But given the incredibly dystopian crackdown on any freedom of expression in the United Kingdom in the past few weeks, do you really trust that government to decide for you what misogyny even is? Interestingly, this new pilot program to treat misogyny basically as domestic terror is trying to look at the causes of radicalization in young people, clearly monitoring the extremist trends that Gen Z or Gen Z has obviously been embracing in the past few years. But hear me out. Is it at all possible that just maybe young people are realizing that the all men are evil, eat men, men are pigs strategy just isn't it? Or that being a raging, angry leftist girl boss is the least enjoyable experience as a young woman possible? By treating misogyny as extremism, the UK government is going to crack down on those pushing harmful and hateful beliefs. How long until saying men and women are different is a hateful belief? How long until saying men are not women and women are not men is a hateful belief? These people will do literally anything to put you in prison over your thoughts, your beliefs, your values at this point. And in the last few weeks of the government cracking down on Christians, on anybody criticizing the government, on conservative-leaning individuals, I have a feeling cracking down on misogyny isn't really what they're after. But hey, what do I know?
A while ago, a judge ruled that if you're not a self-proclaimed male feminist, you are discriminating against what it seems now to be a protected group. Now there's this. I don't live in the UK, so correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this pure insanity? Doesn't this feel like they're trying to make even being a man illegal? This lady did hit the nail in the head. Who decides what's misogynistic and not? How can one measure the level of misogyny in someone else? If I were to post this video on Twitter, I would have at least 10 lunatics calling me a misogynist. Not to mention this lady here, because obviously she cannot have an opinion of her own, but instead everything she just said must come from some internalized misogyny or some weird stuff like that.
Isn't it funny when a man speaks up against the way modern toxic women feel? He's labeled misogynistic or insecure or it's a weakness. Isn't that weird? There's a word for that. Oh, that's right. They call that projecting. See, the problem is most of y'all that are offended use a word like misogyny, and you don't even really understand what that word means. You think misogyny is any time a man stands up against a woman. That's not misogyny. That's holding people accountable. Misogyny is quite literally hatred for women. Like, you have to hate all women. You want nothing to do with women. And clearly, if you've watched more than 10 seconds of any of my videos, you would know that's not the case. You would understand that, wow, maybe he's actually just calling out toxic women. He's just calling out trash bag women who deserve to be called out and held accountable. See, all these people, these women are looking for the simp, the guy that's just going to bend the knee to the woman and let her do and say and act however she wants. And you think anybody who doesn't do that is weak, when in fact that person, that man, is the weak one. Another difference here is I hold myself accountable a lot, and I have no problem doing it, which is why I also have no problem holding other people accountable and calling them out as well. So people like you can sit here and call it misogyny or insecure. No, you're projecting. You're offended because you know I'm talking about people like you.
Well, it seems you're in luck, as if you didn't live in the UK, she will throw you in prison. And this is exactly what I said earlier. Who decides who's misogynistic or not? As if it was up to that lady who left the comment, every man breathing having a different opinion than hers would be locked up.
No, misogyny against men is still misogyny. Women do misogyny all the time. Remember, misogyny is mainstream in our society. As a man, you're probably rarely hurt by misandry, contempt for men, because it almost never exists, but you're probably regularly hurt by misogyny. A good example of this is when a woman gets the ick for men because he did something that wasn't masculine. That's not contempt for masculinity and manhood. That's contempt for anything that's not masculine. That's misogyny. A lot of women do not really understand how misogynistic they can be and how that hurts men in their lives. Another good example is not letting men show their emotions. This is something that both men and women do to men. I think this is one of the things that hurts men and boys in our society the most. I think it is a cornerstone of most of men's issues. But is it misandry, contempt for men, or misogyny, contempt for women?
No, it's hatred towards men. You're deflecting and you can try to change the definition to suit your narrative, but it doesn't work like that. Both misogyny and misandry is the hatred towards the other gender. And I know you knew exactly what it meant because I've seen some other of your videos. Your hatred towards men, it's not contempt. As much as I don't like it, those men and those women do exist. And because they do hate the other gender, and because they do have so much hate in them, they're gonna do everything in their power to destroy the ones they hate. So no, it's not contempt. And no, it's not misogyny that hurts men.
Did you guys see the video of the girl in New York City who got into a cab clearly intoxicated and started to mace her driver? The video starts with her reaching up with mace, what I think is mace, and spraying in his eye, and the guy like basically falling out of the car to get out of the mace. After he gets out of the car, she tries to get up into the driver's seat, but her friend pulls her back like with force. This girl is really trying to like get in the driver's seat, pulls her back with force and looks at her dead in the eye, and she's like, what the f? Her friend is clearly like baffled about what just happened. So the girl gets out and her friend's looking at her as she's standing outside of the car, and she says, why did you do that? And the girl looks at her and says, I don't know. In my opinion, it seemed like this girl was so intoxicated that she left her body.
Yeah, of course, that's gonna be your opinion. Her being intoxicated, yeah, that's pretty obvious. Her acting like that, it's not because she left her body. Her acting like that, it's not only because it's allowed, but it's celebrated. Her behavior, especially on TikTok, is gonna be considered empowerment. You did say towards the end of your video that you hope they find her and she's held accountable for her action. Is it that hard to find her? She did use the app to call an Uber, so if they are interested in finding her, it's quite easy to do. But are they that interested in finding her? Because after all, she is a woman.
I honestly thought this was a joke for a second, because the argument about whether she's big or not, no, she's big. And I went to the comments on this video and saw things like this, and things like this, and even things like this. You know these words have definitions, right? She is objectively obese. Like, you wouldn't take a look at a photo like this and say that that person is not obese. And if you would, that is delusion beyond belief. Guess what? That is the woman in the video, Miss Nepal. And if you think that I have no right to say this, let's hear it from somebody else.
If you're all about body positivity, why are you actively trying to lose weight? Body positivity doesn't mean I have to stay fat or overweight or unhealthy.
Guess who that was? You got that right. The same person in the video. If she can admit that she is overweight, obese, fat, whatever word you choose to use, and wants to actively change it, you should not be arguing about this.
Well, I'm not. She's big. And she's not arguing either. She's the one who said she's big. And once again, if I said that on Twitter, well, let's say I'm grateful I don't live in the UK. But anyway, I'm done for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay safe and I will see you in the next one.